started. Today we are talking about, the funny thing is my original topic was on basically home remedies, how to cure ear infection in 3 hours, how to cure a sore throat, all these different things. And my mom told me that she did not like that topic at all. So she told me to switch it, and she thought that people would like to hear about what God has recently revealed to me about children back talking, and just the way that kids nowadays talk to their parents, that the way that it's portrayed on television. So that's a change of topic, but if you're joining us now, we're talking about kids, and what is your role when they are being obnoxious, sassy, fighting? What is God calling you to do? What does he expect of you, and what is our role? So whether you're kids or toddlers or teenagers, or I believe teenagers are, if you look at them as a toddler, then they're easier to understand. And so I just want to start off saying that my whole life I babysat and loved kids, loved babies. That was always my jobs growing up. And we had a big family, lots of cousins, and so babies were always around, kids were always around. I was the one orchestrating plays and whatever, art activities with the kids. And so I knew I wanted kids, but I thought I wanted a big family, but I would have thought 4 kids was a big family. But God has blessed us with 8 children. And so in the beginning years, I always talk about how hard mothering was for me. And I mean, it's still a difficult thing. It's more, now I look at it more as a challenge and something that I work at and I get better at in different ways. Whereas in the beginning, I really, in my head, I pictured me and my kids running through fields and playing games. And I had this image in my head that it was gonna be like babysitting, and it was so far from that. And I can remember being with, I think the hardest time was when I had 4 kids, 4 and under, and no like friends around or support or community. And I would plan something so fun. And there was so much crying, whining, fighting. And I was just like, I couldn't get over the fact that regardless of my mindset, if the kids decided to have a bad day, it was going to be a bad day. I couldn't see any way out of that. I was like, if you have a screaming toddler, there's no way you can have fun at a museum or, the library or whatever. And I felt so sad that I almost was like giving up on this idea that family life was this beautiful thing, and that I would enjoy my kids and we would do all these adventures. And so in a way, I was kind of like mourning that idea that family life was supposed to be fun. But I was so wrong in that. So I want to say that I was so wrong, and I knew that this was not what God had intended for family life. He did not expect us to be miserable. He did not expect our our marriages to be strained, or just like being home, the evenings being very stressful, dinner. That is not what God has. He's got big plans for families, and it does not include that kind of misery. And so it took me a while to realize that there are ways that I can help this and bring more peace in my house, and not let the kids which are inherently, they are born and they're me creatures. They want to get fed, they want their needs met. And as they get older, they get less selfish, and up until, which we talked about this, when they're teenagers, they're very peer oriented and they worry about their peers more, but their world starts expanding a little bit as teenagers. And then it's not until we're adults that we actually start self-sacrificing, caring about other people, having responsibilities. We're not led by our emotions like kids are. We have, just because the way you feel about your child, we all know as mothers, cannot dictate how you discipline them or how you treat them. You have to go beyond your feelings, beyond your emotions, beyond your hormones to properly parent the child. Well, teenagers don't have those skills yet, okay? So they are playing cards from a different seat than we are. And we all know how we were as teenagers. Lots of us were, I know for myself, I was very selfish, and it was just that I just didn't know yet to be concerned about other people. I just wasn't there yet. So I remember telling my mom, I was like, Mom, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out how to get my kids not to fight and not to whine and complain. And she was like, well, you be sure to tell the world, because I'm pretty sure they've been dealing with that since Cain and Abel, which is hilarious. So it's so true. This is a really old problem. The prodigal son, it's all over the Bible. But there are some techniques, and there are things that we can do as parents and as mothers that God would want us to do. How does he want us to respond? Okay. All right. So I think that there are going to be some viewers that strongly disagree with me, and that's okay. That's okay. This is just where I have come to in my crash course in mothering, and me actively seeking answers. Okay. I remember when my brother was acting up in high school, and my dad, I'll never forget this. I was 7 years younger than my brother, so however old I was. And my dad looked at him in the eye, and he said, "You don't get to steal the peace in this house." I'll never forget that. You have no right to steal the peace in my house. And that's what I tell my kids nowadays. I'm like, I'm a happy person. My husband's a happy person. We get along. We're not screaming, arguing, throwing things. And so I told the kids, I didn't sign up for a house full of arguments and being ugly to each other. So you don't get to bring that into my house. In this house, we speak nicely to each other. So I'll get into that in a little bit. But I know, I'm at the cusp of having teenagers, and I have been saying this for years. I cannot live like everybody says, oh, you teenagers, they're going to sass you. They're going to back talk, eye roll. I can't do that for 20 years while my kids are growing up. I'm going to have a teenager in my house for a really long time, and I can't suffer through that. So I've really made it a point, like, God, please teach me. And I think he's revealed something to me that's very important. And this is pretty much what my mom wanted me to share with all of you. Okay. I have been observing teenagers of my friends and family that have teenagers. And I'm observing teenagers on TV. I'm observing teenagers on social media. And that's what I do. I look at how other people do it. Where are they doing things that I want to imitate? Or are they doing things that I want to make sure I don't do? Okay. What I'm noticing about teenagers is that they believe that their opinion is extremely important and needs to be validated. Okay. Teenagers and young adults. They need to be heard, and every emotion needs to be expressed, and they need someone to listen to them, okay? Also, a lot of what I see is that the parents are always portrayed as dumb in all movies and all that kind of stuff. But it's very teen-centered family style. But before I get into that, so this is what God revealed to me. Before that teenager got out of control and was an 18-year-old who listens to no one, she was a 15-year-old who would backtalk to no end and talk her way in and out of everything. And before she was a 15-year-old doing that, she was a 10-year-old who would throw a little fit when she didn't get her way and would talk around why she should have this and that. And before she was a 10-year-old, she was a 5-year-old who could not obey a simple request of turn the TV off, it's time for dinner. Or no, you're not playing electronics until your room's clean, or whatever it is. And before that, it was a 3-year-old who, and are different and difficult. But it's almost like God revealed to me, I'm giving you this small child to teach them how to obey, how to complete tasks, how to be respectful. And then they're going to get older. And then I'm going to give you, so it's in increments, okay? So then I'm going to give you this 5-year-old. And so when a 5-year-old throws a fit because you want them to pick up their skates that are in the doorway, then how you handle that is the same way you're going to handle a 15-year-old who's trying to take your car. It's all relative. So he gives it to us in these, he wants us to, how are you going to treat your teenager? I'm giving you the training. So that's what God is offering us, this way of, so he's telling me, June, if you don't want teenagers being disrespectful and stealing the peace from your house, then you need to have 10-year-olds who are not disrespectful and do not steal the peace in your house. And you need to start with your 5-year-olds and your 3-year-olds. Okay, this is what we're having for dinner. Say thank you. Whatever it is. And so that's been a big awakening to me. Let's see here. I took a few notes. I also noticed that we live in a very kid-centered society. A lot of families are centered around the children. A lot of marriages are centered around the children. All the activities, even the house. Houses nowadays are filled to the brim with toys. It overtakes all the other things of the household. And it's not right. They are not the center. They are not this centralized thing. We know from the 5 P's that I always talk about that the first priority is prayer, then partner, your spouse, then parent. No, I'm sorry. I missed one. Prayer, person, then partner, then parent. They're number 4 on the list, and then provider. So I always tell my friends, think this is funny. I say, I love y'all very much, but I love dad way more. Because that's the best thing I can do for them is have a peaceful house and a loving home, right? Okay, so they don't get to steal the peace in your house, okay? It's hard enough living life. We all got things we can complain about. We can't let their emotional state steal the joy from all of us. So I went ahead and I did a 0 tolerance policy for, y'all gonna laugh, I call it being wonderful. So that is the standard. So if you are not being wonderful, not even like okay personality, if you're not being wonderful, then I need you to leave and you can come back out when you're ready to be wonderful, because there are 9 other people who can't wait to enjoy dinner or swimming or whatever we're doing at the time. And we can't let the one child or the one person steal from the other ones. So my technique is I had to train them this is my 8, 9, 10-year-olds, but now I'm even using it with my 4-year-old who's been throwing fits, and it's helping. Okay, so let's say they come in and they're like, oh, I was about to do that. You just took my spot or whatever. And so I look at them and I do this. And here's the training part. If they grumble or make an ugly face on the way to their room or slam a door or something like that, they lose all electronics and TV for the rest of the day. So I only had to do it maybe once or twice per kid. So anyway, so you come in not being wonderful, and I look at you and I point. That means go in your room, step away. You just lost your privilege of being in with all of us, and come out when you're ready to be wonderful. If you make a grunt, an eye roll, anything under your breath, stomp, you now lost TV and electronics for the whole day. You get to start over tomorrow. Every day is a new day, but it is that drastic. It means that much to me that you change your face. I want to see a happy face over here. I don't want to see these stinky faces. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, it's so harsh. You know, what a harsh thing to do. And I did this months ago because it was getting to the point where my kids were even getting me to think that their behavior was okay. Like I was like, well, yeah, you really were wrong, Dar. Yeah, you slept late, you went to bed late and all this stuff. And then I'm like, I'm not living with the fighting. Okay. So anyway, great technique. If you're ready to do it, you got to do it hardcore, and you only have to do it once or twice. And it also keeps your sanity because some things will tell you to ignore it, but I mean, we're only human. So after about the 70th complaint or bickering, you're going to lose your mind and end up yelling. And then now you've lost your peace and your sanity, and they don't get to do that. No one gets to do that to you, especially not in your house. You're trying to make this loving home. So I did the experiment for y'all. So I went that hardcore on being wonderful, and I have seen the most radical change in one particular child that I was trying to correct this in. She is happier. She's wonderful. Like at one point she said, she's laying on the couch and she says, Mom, do you need help with anything? Almost fell out the chair. So that's just, I'm kind of reading this. I got the meanest mom award. No reservation, laying down the law. Yeah, it's true. And I find the quicker I decide, okay, the sooner I respond to a problem, the less I become unhinged. And so a big goal in disciplining is that you keep your cool, because that way you're not giving some of your authority to them. When you lose your cool, you're kind of acting like a child. So you always want to keep your cool. And one way to do this is by catching it really early. Like let nothing slide. Let absolutely nothing slide. And I have a great book from St. Therese's parents, and they were very, very stern with her. Okay. I also want to, I want to note that in Genesis, God disciplines Adam and Eve. And how does he do it? Get out. You're not being wonderful. You don't want to listen. Get out of the garden. Okay? Now you got to work and get out of here. And now you are away from my presence. So that was God's choice of discipline. And so it should be good for us as well. Okay. Now I want to explain, in the beginning, I would read all these articles that would make me feel so much mom guilt. Like, oh, my little girl was playing and she started yelling at the kids. And then I felt like, oh, that's what I'm modeling. Or I need to stop and pick up rocks, and I haven't been, looking at rocks enough with my kids, or whatever it is. And those were valid things for them to write about, but they just made me feel horrible. Okay. I felt like I did not know how to parent. I did not have that parental instinct that you're supposed to have. Something would happen in the beginning, and I literally did not know. Do I put them in timeout? Do they get a spanking? Should they write an essay? Should I just give them a hug? And does that mean that they need more quality time with me? Maybe I need to do a reward system, sticker system. I don't know. We need dates once a week. I was so confused. Okay, so I narrowed in on of parental advice, and I basically went dark on anyone else's parental advice. Okay, and I would suggest you do that as well. Find somebody that you agree with their, or I shouldn't say agree. You trust their experiences, you trust their perspectives, and you like the way that they parent or whatever, and then continue to go back to them. Okay, so I have one resource that has helped me out so much. I have 3 that I want to share with y'all. Okay, the first one is Dr. Ray Goretti, and I know it's going to be backwards, but I'll link these below. He is a psychologist, and he has raised 10 children, adopted children. And so he knows it. He knows it from the clinical side, he knows it from an academic side, and he knows it from a real life experience side. And he's hysterical. If you do not have time to read his books, then you can look him up on YouTube, and his talks are so funny. Easy read. This is not like reading a textbook. This is like, oh, thank you for that. And so anytime, like recently I had someone tell a lie. So I couldn't remember exactly what he said about that. So I go to pull out my books. I look in the table of contents when someone lies, and I implement what he says, because I trust him enough in his judgment, and I really like the different things. My favorite book that he wrote is called Advice Worth Ignoring. And it's a lot about all the frou-frou parenting advice. Okay, now y'all gonna hate me for this. I call it the Daniel Tiger advice. Okay, I can't stand Daniel Tiger. Oh, it's not even allowed in my house. This is why. Daniel Tiger promotes, if your tower of blocks falls, that you are welcome to cry about it. You need to take 5 breaths, and then we need to discuss how that makes you feel. And in real life, that's not right. You have, oh, I'm sorry your blocks fell, but blocks are meant to fall. You build them back up. Look at that. Let's help you build it back up. See if a friend will help you. That is more my mentality, okay? That we are giving too much attention to the emotional things, and not that, of course, I need to put a disclaimer. Of course, you know, but I tell my kids, I'm like, how much do you know I love you? I devote my entire life to loving you. And they're all like, I know how much you love me. Okay, so if I don't help you, if I don't sit there and cry with you about the broken tower, we still know how much I love you because of the million other things that we do together, right? And that and the millions of compliments and all these things that I'll build you up with, okay? So don't be afraid of that. But anyway, so Advice Worth Ignoring. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I use these as resources all the time. So this is one voice that I trust and above all the rest. Okay. Shepherding a Child's Heart. This is it's about, man, it's good. It teaches you how God, that is your God-given duty to discipline. Don't spare your child the rod. And a great piece of advice is that you can love your children too much and you don't want to discipline, because that's obviously the harder route. It's way easier to give in to whatever will get them to just stop fussing or whining or nagging. It's way easier just to give in. This book is really describes how you explain to them that it's your God-given duty, and that if you didn't do these punishments or you didn't do the spanking or whatever it is, it's so good. You have to read it for yourself. He words it great. That you are actually sinning against God. And then you love the child, you give them a hug, and it's great. So Shepherding a Child's Heart by Ted Tripp, and I'll link that below too. Okay, and then there's one more book. If you have like one child that we always say, okay, you take these 6 and I'll take this one, or you take those 7 kids and I'll take this one. If you have that, we're going to call them a strong-willed child, that just nothing you're doing seems to work. I've had one, and with the techniques from this book, oh, he's just wonderful. I mean, total 180 after the techniques in this book. And now I have another one, a toddler that I think is I need to use some of those techniques in the books. It's called Setting Limits with Your Strong-Willed Child. So anyway, I hope that helped y'all. If y'all have any questions, please let me know. I know that's a hard topic and a lot of people won't agree, will agree. Maybe you needed the encouragement to discipline. That's just, I just wanted to share that with you, what God has been kind of revealing to me on my journey in motherhood. And if you want to know about the ear infection cures and the other cures that I have, please let me know. And I'll maybe do a short video after this on those, or I may do that. I might go ahead and hang up this line and pick one back up. Okay, see y'all next week at 3, Wednesday at 3. Y'all have a great, great day. Love y'all.